What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Some of you guys might already recognize Eric here. He's the owner of the RevMatchTV YouTube channel. And today we're going to be doing a kind of two-part comparison on the BMW M2. We're driving it right now. This is Eric's car. It's a 2011, correct?
That's right.
And then we're going to hop into the BMW M2, a 2016 model. The M2 replaced the 1M, but in a lot of ways, in my opinion, the 1M is the one to have. But we're going to get into that in a bit. First of all, Eric, tell me a little bit about your car.
Sure. So this is the BMW 1M, and this was a one-year only model run. This was introduced in 2011, and it was basically a Skunk Works project. And I found out about this car. I had a 135i at the time, and BMW was doing a lot of subtle promotion on all the forums, and they were sort of dropping hints about this improved E82 chassis, which turned out to be this car, the 1M. And there was just a small group of engineers working at BMW M that put the car together. They put it about halfway together before they actually presented it to BMW corporate. So it was an exercise in putting together an M car in a smaller chassis for the first time without a bespoke engine, and doing it as a parts bin car.
Right.
So this has the parts from the E92 M3. It has the differential, it has the suspension, it has the brakes, but it has a different transmission, and of course it has a different engine. This is the first time in an M car that they used a non-bespoke engine.
It's just the same N54 from the 135i, isn't it?
That's right. It's very, very similar. There's a couple of small changes to it. This makes a little bit more power.
335 horsepower. Car weighs a little under, what, 3,500 pounds or so?
It's 3,300 pounds.
3,300 pounds. Okay,
yeah.
So relatively light car. I absolutely love the way this thing looks. I mean, compared to a normal 1 Series, even like a 135i, just the wide fenders, that low, squat look, it almost kind of reminds me like of a bullfrog that lifts weights, you know? it's almost wider than it is long in some sense.
It's sort of like an orange bullfrog, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit ill, maybe he ate something that made him angry.
Yeah, but then when you look at the M2, it's got a little bit of a sleeker proportion to it, a little bit longer wheelbase, if I'm not mistaken. This car just looks the business. It looks so mean from any angle you look at it.
This does have aftermarket wheels and tires on it, an aftermarket exhaust. It has a mid-pipe, basically. But this tune on this is completely stock.
Okay.
But in terms of the way it should drive, this should drive very, very close to stock.
Close to stock.
Yeah.
This car feels more tactile, for sure. The steering is immediately so much sharper and more full of feel and feedback.
So that is one of the big differences between these cars and modern BMWs.
Yeah.
And most modern cars, that they are an electric steering rack system. So this is the last hydraulic rack that BMW made in an M car.
Right. Stock brakes.
Stock brakes.
A lot of bite in the brakes.
Yeah, these are the exact same brakes from the E92 M3. That's the slotted rotors, same pads, everything.
The steering feel immediately, like once I get it loaded up in this corner here, there's more weight to it when it loads up. The M2, it just feels kind of light and airy in comparison.
Yeah, that is my big complaint with pretty much all BMW steering, including the current generation M3 and M4, that they're accurate, but the way that it loads up, it feels fake to me.
It does feel fake. But that being said, it is proven that electric steering can work. Just look at the GT4 Cayman. I mean, that steering feels about as hydraulic as any hydraulic rack I've ever experienced.
In terms of the echelon, I think, of manufacturers that do electric steering really well right now, Porsche is, in my opinion, at the top.
At the very top, absolutely. Well, that was very satisfying.
Gotta love tunnels.
Yeah. Given that this is not a bespoke engine, yeah, I guess it makes it a little bit less special than the other M cars, but it's a really, really effective engine at what it does. And I think it suits the personality of this car so well. In this car, something about that torque rush, that surge from the twin turbos around 3,000, how it pulls pretty hard to about 6.5. It's a little bit more like brutal in a way, a little bit less of a precise, finely tuned machine, which kind of matches also the way it handles. It's not extremely precise, extremely light, like something like a Lotus or a Cayman. It's kind of a car that you kind of have to just, manhandle.
Right. In your opinion, how does the throttle response and the lag, compare to the M2?
This has, I think, a little bit more lag down low, but it's very, very minor. I was expecting it to be a bigger difference.
This is the first BMW inline six engine that was a turbo, as far as I know, the N54, as they're moving away from the classic inline six that you'd get in, the E46,
Right.
for example. And so, as a way of sort of testing out the technology to reduce the lag and make it feel more like a naturally aspirated car, they put twin turbos in this.
Right, okay.
And so in the N55, which is the successor engine to this, BMW moved to something that they call twin scroll technology, where they took those two turbos and they moved them into one housing. Yeah, that's to me, that's one of the more addictive things about the car. This car is the engine has that push, and it kind of just keeps going.
It just keeps going. It's a big difference than, for example, the E92 M3, which has a lot more peak power. So on paper, it looks like the faster car, but driving around at 3 to 4 to 5,000 RPMs, this car feels much quicker. With the M2, when I was pushing it through those corners, I felt a little bit more body roll. It felt a little bit softer. But yeah, I have to say that my biggest surprise driving this car is the level of refinement is so close to the M2. It's more raw in the sense that you get more feedback through the steering, and I think the shifter might be a little bit better. But other than that, the car is just as refined as the M2. It all depends on what your priorities are. And with this car, you're not looking for the absolute cream of the crop interior.
Right.
You're buying it for the novelty factor and like the driving experience, which this thing is really impressive from that perspective.
Right.
So that being said, yeah, thanks Eric for letting me drive your
pleasure.
1M. This is actually kind of a bucket list item for me, so cool to check that off. Let's hop into the M2 and see how you like it.
My first impression of the steering is that it feels a little bit lighter to me.
Yeah.
I'm not getting as much feedback to the steering
Yeah.
as the hydraulic rack in the 1M.
I really can't even blame BMW for that. Just the way the industry's going. It's like you're asking for something that is digital to feel analog. It's just not going to happen. Porsche, to some extent, is the exception, but even then, their older hydraulic racks are even better.
One of the things for me about a manual transmission that is so important is the fact that you can have another way of improving your driver's skill, and that is by rev matching, and that's heel and towing and braking at the same time for a corner. To me, being able to get that right is so cool and so exciting. But right now, and let me go down in a second, it just rev matched for me.
It's seamless. It works great.
It was awfully good. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's removed that one skill development thing that I really, really enjoy doing.
Right. Because at the end of the day, you're not buying a manual to go faster than the guy who bought the same car in a DCT.
It just did a perfect rev match.
Yeah, you buy it because it's fun, and this is taking away part of that. And to be fair, you can turn off the auto rev match in this car, but it requires you to be in Sport Plus mode with traction and stability control disabled.
Right? And who wants that when we're driving on a road like
Exactly.
this?
Like, I'd rather have that stuff on, but still be able to rev match my own shifts.
The name of my channel, by the way, is RevMatch. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we're talking about. It is the the passion of Jesus. It just did it for me again, and I tried to do it. I'm so accustomed to doing it manually. Right. I can't not do it. So,
Right. You do feel a lot of weight transfer in this car, because the last time I reviewed a car on this road was a Cayman GT4.
Right.
And the amount of confidence I had driving that thing through these sweepers, going into a corner, mid-corner, exiting a corner, it's just the level of confidence is just completely on a different level compared to either this or the 1M.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a whole different, layout.
Yeah. Different layout, actual aero and track-tuned suspension, versus this is just a street car that happens to be very fun to drive on the track.
Right. This is still a car you can daily drive in the city, no problem. This is not an aggressive, car.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of, the engine here, so it actually feels very, very similar to me. In terms of the amount of pull,
Yeah.
and the amount of torque that we're getting feels quite close, and I think, you know, maybe the difference is that this car is about 150 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
And so even though the 1M has 30 less horsepower than this does,
the weight really does make up that difference. It still pulls though, doesn't it?
It still pulls. God, I just have to rev match on my own.
Bring it out. There we go. Yes. You know, I like the mid-pipe on your car. I think it makes it sound a little better than this.
It does sound a little better,
but
yeah.
we are in comfort mode still, aren't we?
Yes. Oh,
okay, so once we put it into sport mode, it opens up one of the baffles.
Okay, yeah. You know, one of the main differences I think that I'm feeling here is this feels a little less analog than the 1M. There's things happening in the 1M, like the steering and the chassis, and even the brakes. The inputs are a little bit harder, they're a little bit less refined. There's a little bit less of that sort of BMW soft rubber that you have to go through, you know what I mean? Like the classic
one less layer between you and the car.
Right. The classic BMW thing is when you go into a corner of the car for a second, it sort of has to take a set. And you have to go through that sort of mushiness for a second until the car feels firm.
Yeah.
This has more of that mushiness in it. A little bit, you know, a little bit. I just can't help but rev match.
It's a t-shirt, man. You gotta take the t-shirt off.
It's bizarre. I know, it's gotta be the t-shirt. But these do drive very, very similarly, obviously.
Yeah, they really do. And I think just the slightly longer wheelbase of this car might make it feel a little bit more stable. But you're really splitting hairs. I mean, in every single aspect of this car, after driving this one and then hopping into the 1M, the difference is like, if I were to try to quantify it, it's like 10 to 15% tops.
That sounds about right.
I think the steering may be a little more than that, but that's the only thing.
All right, so that definitely sounds better in sport mode.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, that sounds a lot better in sport mode. Okay, all right. But the way it pulls feels very similar to me.
It does, yeah. What do you think about the brakes? Do they bite us hard initially?
Let's get on the brakes pretty hard here. Let's see. Woo! So the brakes are good. I feel like the braking in the 1M is better, but I'm going to leave that to the tires. It's a quick car, there's no question.
It's a quick car. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's no Porsche GT4, but it's also not the same price.
It's not supposed to be a GT4 either.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a hooligan, like a car that you can kind of slide around and use the weight transfer and just have fun with it at lower speeds.
Cars like this, front engine, rear-wheel drive, short wheelbase, you're just not going to have the same kind of dynamics that you get in a mid-engine car. Yeah, this is certainly a fun car, but I wouldn't pick it over mine.
No, I don't think I would either. And I think that kind of brings us to one more point, is like the intangible aspect of it. This is an M2. To my knowledge, they're not really limited production. I've seen quite a few of them on the road. The 1M, every time I see one, instant like break my neck. I'm just like, oh, that's a 1M, especially in that orange color.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. And the 1M, because it is shorter wheelbase, I think the fenders are even more flared out compared to this. It just gives you more of a punch, I would say.
Yeah.
This one just looks kind of like a shrunken M4. So last point here is value for money, right? Because the M2 you can buy brand new for around 55 to 60, maybe 65 with fully, all the options. The 1M, the MSRP was in the 50 to 55 range, but how much are they going for now on the market?
Because the M1 is a collectible car, and there's only about 740 of them made, now they're going for in the 60s.
In the 60s, wow. So even with some miles on them, they're in that range?
I've seen some low mileage ones in the high 60s and, more mileage in the mid 50s.
Okay.
So they haven't lost any value from MSRP. They've actually crept up a little bit.
Okay. Man, for me, I take the 1M any day of the week.
I agree. I mean, they do drive very similarly. It's the same type of car. It's the same layout. It's still a BMW. It's only one generation apart. but there's something a little bit intangible about the 1M, and to me it is, you know, it sort of all adds up to there's a little bit more driver feedback.
Right.
You feel a little bit more in tune with the car. There's less refinement to it, and it's just a little bit more of a scoundrel.
Right. So when I say better, in terms of the 1M being a little bit better than this, I think as a driver's car, it's, in my opinion, more connected. On the other hand, if you do just want kind of a more refined experience, this car, the M2, really does offer 80 to 90% of the thrills, I think, of the 1M.
Right, and of course, this is available in DCT, and most of the cars that you're going to find on the used
Are
market
DCT.
are going to be DCT.
Yeah.
So, you know, that if that's something you really want, then the question is, it's answered for you right away.
But
you know?
you're wrong if you pick the DCT. So in other words, buy a 6-speed manual if you buy an M2. And if you buy a 1M, you don't have a choice, so tough luck.
Right.
So on that note, thanks again, Eric, for bringing out your 1M. This is a pleasure. A little collab here, and if you enjoyed it, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.